Precision rifle techniques, pre-match practice, and muzzle brakes or suppressors. This week on Mail Call Mondays. Mail Call Mondays is sponsored by Modular Driven Technologies. If you need a chassis system for your precision rifle, check out Modular Driven Technologies at mdttac.com. I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, a show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. Welcome to another Mail Call Mondays, and our first question this Monday comes from Matt. And Matt asks, what are good techniques to carry over from precision shooting to carbine and pistol? And what bad techniques to carry over from carbine or pistol to precision shooting? Well, Matt, that is a great question because I do a lot of carbine and pistol work as well as precision rifle shooting. The main technique that really works well across all platforms is trigger control. Trigger control is one of the main things that's going to decide if you hit your target or not. Even if you are trying to shoot a pistol at the greatest speed possible, if you are ganking that trigger so hard that you're changing your sight alignment, you're going to miss. Now, how fast you can press the trigger is going to be dependent upon how gross your aiming area is, but still, if you just wildly slap away at that trigger, your bullets are going to go everywhere. So regardless of if you are shooting a precision rifle, a shotgun, a handgun, or a carbine, you still have to maintain good trigger control. Now, for just about everything else in the shooting problem, you are going to sacrifice portions of the fundamentals of marksmanship depending upon what your end result is going to be. If you are shooting a carbine and you are moving and you are rapidly engaging targets, you're probably not going to worry about your breathing as much as you would if you're shooting that really tight group at 100 yards with your precision rifle. With a carbine or handgun, you're going to breathe whatever you need to breathe to keep your body oxygenated while you're engaging targets. So you're not going to stop and hold your breath. You're not going to do the pressing the trigger on the natural respiratory pause, because that natural respiratory pause is not going to come fast enough if you're going to do a 15-round string. So those little things are going to get sacrificed. Now, again, coming back to things that you do with rifle and carbine that are bad habits that will hurt your precision rifle shooting, again, that comes back to that trigger control. When you start to shoot really, really fast, you may run into situations where your trigger finger is leaving the face of the trigger, and when you're coming back on it, you're re-engaging that trigger pretty quickly, and it is almost a trigger slap. It's not quite a slap, it is still a controlled movement. You're not ganking the trigger. You're coming back and you are swiftly applying that trigger. Now, that may not be the best thing to do with a precision rifle when you are running a much lighter trigger than you may have on a carbine or a handgun. You may cause that shot to come a little quicker than you had intended. So you need to adjust that trigger control based upon what you're shooting. And that mental gear shifting just comes in from that routine practice. I found that my brain can switch gears fairly easy depending upon how the weapon system feels. So when I pick up a handgun, if I have a jam on the handgun, I'm not reaching back for a charging handle. I know I'm shooting a handgun, so if I have a malfunction, I'm immediately going to go into handgun malfunction. If I have a malfunction with my carbine, I'm going to immediately go into carbine malfunction, and the only reason I can do that and change gears that quickly is because I have utilized those systems so often that my brain knows how they feel and knows instinctively which system I'm on. So make sure that you get the most amount of practice on the system that you are specializing on, but still get a considerable amount of practice on the other ones. So you really need to practice across everything that you use. If you just occasionally, say, have a carbine that you bring out once in a while, then you're not going to be able to smoothly transition to that as quickly as you would if you shot that equally to your other systems. So that's kind of a little bit more of a complex issue, but trigger control, I think, is the biggest one that can both benefit and hurt across all the platforms. Our next question comes from Nick, and Nick asks, What is your pre-match practice routine / plan, or do you just take off your cape and run what you know? Well, Nick, I may not be the best person to ask this because currently, because I've been juggling a lot of things, this show, rifle reviews, all kinds of other stuff, and still trying to go out and shoot matches occasionally, I don't have a really good pre-match practice plan. Usually what I would recommend though is you just practice with the rifle and with the gear that you're going to shoot, and you make that your main rifle. That doesn't mean you can't go out and have some fun with another gun, that you can't take another system that maybe you're working with, but your core practice, when you go out to the range with a practice goal for that day, it needs to be your primary match rifle that you're shooting with. Now, what the goal can be dependent upon what kind of shooting problems you're going to find at the specific match that you're going to. Some matches are well known for a certain stage or another stage, and I usually will know which stages I do poorly at and which stages I do better at. If I'm prepping for a match, I usually won't spend a whole lot of time laying down prone shooting slow fire targets, because I know that's something that I should be practicing in my regular weekly range trip anyway. I shouldn't need to break it out and practice it specifically for a match. If this is a specific pre-match practice, then I'm going to take maybe a difficult barricade drill that I've shot before, or a suspended platform drill, or maybe they have some certain rooftop scenario that you have to shoot, and I will practice those kind of drills. Sometimes there's a partner shoot, or maybe you know this match routinely has a 90-degree drill where you have to roll your rifle over 90 degrees on the side and take a shot. That would be something that you want to practice specifically for that match. You want to make sure that you get that data written down in your data book, and you know what to dial in your scope, or you know what to hold for those kind of problems. If you know there's going to be a loophole stage, then it might be a good idea to go ahead and set up a loophole stage that is as close to what you're going to have at the match as possible. If for no other reason than to have that mental plan built in and to have the confidence that you know you can shoot that. If you are going to shoot, say, something like the Sniper's Hide Cup, where you know a lot of it is going to be field positions, a lot of it is going to be tripod, then I would go out and, leading up to that match, I would shoot more and more off of a tripod. If your range allows it, then I would work more on transitions from targets at one extreme side to another extreme side, and if you can do up and down. If you have a structure where you can get some elevation and practice shooting angles, then I would work on that. So a lot of it's going to depend upon what information that you have been able to gather on what shooting problems you're going to encounter at that match, and then duplicate the ones that you think you're going to have problems with as closely as possible out on the range. Now, the key thing that we run into time and time again is a lot of us that are alpha males, we like to do what we do well. It gives us confidence, it makes us feel happy. We get this nice little warm and fuzzy when we come off the range and we didn't miss any targets for the whole day. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you come off the range and you had no misses for the entire day, you screwed up. You were not pushing hard enough. You didn't set up a difficult enough shooting problem. You didn't set up difficult enough time constraints. So you need to go out there and you need to push your skills until you're missing. Now that you're missing, you need to see why are you missing, and you need to fix the problem. You need to build training scenarios that will emphasize those situations that caused you to miss, and in a controlled environment will allow you to build the skill level to be able to make those hits. It's the same thing if we're shooting carbine or pistol. We don't want to set up targets that are so close and time constraints that are so large that we're always making A-zone hits, that we're putting all our rounds where they need to go. We need to push until we are throwing shots off the target in training, because now, first of all, we know our limits. We know where that wall is. So if you have a job or you're an armed citizen where you may have to employ a firearm in a live fire situation, in a lethal force situation, you know where that limit is. You know how hard you can push before you start endangering others or you start missing your target. In the training environment, you push to that limit and you go, okay, that is where I'm at right now. That is where my skill limit is right now. If you have a training diary or a training log, which you really should, then you write down your training log. This was the limits for this day or for this training session. And then the next time you're out, you're going to set up things that are going to push those limits again, and you'll see how far you're improving incrementally. So it's really important to make sure that you're not always sitting in your comfort zone. You're not always going out and shooting at ranges that you're comfortable with, or shooting at target sizes you're comfortable with, or shooting in that nice comfortable prone position. Get up off the ground, get up off the bench, get on the barricades, start moving, start getting your heart rate and your respiration cranked up, and get down there and try to minimize the amount of time you have to get your shots off, and that's all going to increase your skill level. And what that is also going to do is it's going to boost your comfort level. So once you get out and you start doing this and you start getting comfortable at doing that, then you can push a little bit further and a little bit greater, and that's all it is to that's all there is to increasing your skill level with a firearm. So hope that gives you some ideas on how to tailor your training program to get ready for matches. And our last question also comes from Nick, and Nick asks, do you run a muzzle brake or suppressor for PRS matches? Are you exclusive or do you alternate, and reasons why? Well, Nick, most of the time I'm running a muzzle brake for a precision rifle match, and the reason for that is just simply you have fewer variables, you have less problems with mirage, and you have a more compact overall rifle to be able to shoot. Most of the time the muzzle brakes that we have now are so effective that they provide more recoil abatement than a suppressor does. So you get more recoil reduction with a high quality muzzle brake than you would with a sound suppressor. Now the benefits of the sound suppressor are obviously it greatly reduces that pressure wave that's coming off the muzzle of your rifle. Everybody is going to be wearing ear protection at the firing line, no matter if you're running suppressors or not. Most of the guys there probably will not be running suppressors, so you'll still want to have ear pro on. So you're not benefiting from a comfort level from running a suppressor. What you will benefit from is if you have to shoot in a concrete culvert, or you have to shoot in a barricade situation, or inside a vehicle, having that suppressor will reduce that pressure wave that's going to reflect back and smack you in the face when you fire. This can make things more comfortable. It can reduce the tendency to flinch when you're firing in those situations. So there, a suppressor can be greatly beneficial. How I decide what I'm going to shoot at a specific match is first of all going to come down to which rifle I'm choosing to go shoot at a match. If it is a semi-automatic rifle, more than likely I'm not going to run a suppressor. I'm going to run a brake because I want to be able to shoot fast. I want less blowback coming into my face, which semi-automatic rifles with suppressors, that can be a problem. You can get more back pressure coming through the gas system than you would with a bolt gun. So that will generally cause me to go with an unsuppressed rifle. Also, I'm looking for, when I select a semi-automatic rifle, I want that speed advantage. I want that rifle to stay flat on the target as much as possible. And for instance, our 6.5 Ma-10 with the little bastard Gen 2 brake on it, that thing stays on target very, very well. It's a very mild-mannered rifle, so that setup overall is good to go. Plus, that rifle has a 26-inch barrel, so if I go ahead and stick an 8-inch suppressor on the, 24-inch barrel. So if I go ahead and stick an 8-inch suppressor on the end of that 24-inch barrel, I have a considerable amount of overall length of that rifle, and it's going to cause me problems getting in and out of barricades. Now, when we switch over to bolt guns, it again is going to depend upon which rifle I take and what information I have about the shooting problems I'm going to encounter. And first and foremost, it's going to depend upon what state the match is held in. If it is held in a suppressor-friendly state, obviously I have the freedom to decide if I want a suppressor or a brake. If it is held in a state that is not suppressor-friendly, well, then that pretty much limits my choice to a braked or plain muzzle rifle only. But if I have the choice to select suppressor or muzzle brake, I'll look at what stages I'm likely to encounter, what obstacles I'm likely to encounter. If I know I'm going to have to deploy out of a vehicle on a certain stage, or if I'm going to have to hump a rifle all over hill and dale, those are all factors that I'm going to use to determine which I'm going to take. Very often, if it is permitted in that location and it is going to be a law enforcement or a military match, then I'll take a suppressed rifle because a suppressed rifle is really the gold standard for a law enforcement or military sniper. If it is more of a game match, then I'm probably going to go more towards the brake. But in the end, the differences between them are pretty slim. What you want to avoid is you want to avoid taking a plain muzzle rifle with no protection on the end if you can. Now, obviously, at some of the previous matches, like for instance Guardian, I shot our AE Mark II, which has a Krieger barrel on it that has a plain target crown. And the whole time I'm moving in and out of obstacles, the first and foremost thing that's on my mind is not running the crown of my barrel into anything. So it definitely is something that I have to keep in mind. Whereas when I'm running something that has a brake or flash suppressor or even a silencer on the end of it, then if I slam it into something, I'm probably going to be okay. I'm not going to greatly nick the end of that. Now with a silencer, you still do have to have a little bit of awareness about that because the crown on the silencer still can cause ballistic issues if you severely damage it while you're shooting. So you still can have some gas affecting the tail end of that bullet in a strange way as it leaves. But it's less of a concern as if you tear up the actual crown on your barrel, and that's the transition from the rifling into dead air, then you're going to have problems with the way that gas tries to race past the bullet when it uncorks out of the barrel. And that can cause you some serious issues. So really, if at all possible, you want to have some protection for that crown. So a brake, a flash suppressor, something sticking out there to protect that. But those are just some of the considerations that I have when I'm selecting brake or a suppressor or silencer. And for those of you guys that get bent over the term silencer, it is actually a legally correct term, and it actually was on the patent for the first sound suppressor. So it's perfectly acceptable to call a sound suppressor, a silencer, etc. I'm more concerned about making sure that they are legal in all 50 states and to get rid of the silly $200 tax on them than I am specifically what we call them. And that's it for this Mail Call Mondays. For those of you guys that are supporting us on Patreon, I greatly appreciate it. Our Patreon numbers have been climbing, and thank you very much again. We're fast approaching the point to where our Patreon support is eclipsing the support that we get from YouTube AdSense. So it is quickly approaching the point where I hoped we would be at, where you guys are supporting us more than YouTube is supporting us. And that really means a whole lot to me, that you guys enjoy what we're doing that much, that you want to make sure that you keep us going. So thank you again for the support on Patreon. If you guys want to check it out, we'll leave the link down in the show notes down below. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered on Mail Call Mondays, if you're listening to us on the podcast, go ahead and send us an email at 8541tactical@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on YouTube, then go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section down below. And anybody can send us a comment on Facebook or Twitter. And until next time, get out and shoot.